And we are live. Welcome to Office Hours with Arrow, a LinkedIn Live event hosted by Arrow leaders who care about what senior living looks like. I'm your host and producer, Aaron Neeson, and today I'm joined by Amber Moore and Cherie Colbert to talk about people who care. Amber and Cherie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, it is my pleasure. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and talk about a little about what you do with Arrow? Amber, why don't you kick us off?
Hi, I am Amber Moore. I'm our Managing Director of Human Resources. So I help oversee our Human Resources department.
Nice. And Cherie, your first time here on Arrow Office Hours with Arrow. Please introduce yourself and let the people know what you do for Arrow.
Yes, I am Cherie Colbert, Regional Business Office Director, and I help to provide support from the human resources standpoint, as well as ensuring compliance and letting our BODs know that they have someone to guide them along the process while they're in the community.
Outstanding. I am so happy to have you guys here today to talk about something that's on everyone's mind. Is because today we're talking about people who care. And we're talking about this because as automation reshapes the workforce, senior living and Arrow especially remains rooted in the things that can't be replaced. And first and foremost amongst that is people who care about the job and about the people we're taking care of. But to start things off, how about we do a little light icebreaker? A little light icebreaker before we get into that. What made each of you fall in love with the senior living industry?
Ooh, this is a good one.
Mhm,
I'll start.
mhm.
Please.
So I actually have worked in senior living since I was in high school. So it's been a minute. But when I started in senior living, it wasn't, I am a 16-year-old who's passionate about older adults and I'm going to go find a job working with older adults. No, I was 16, had a friend who already had worked in a senior living community and I needed a job that worked with school and I wanted a job personally where I didn't have to work super late. I was like, I got to be home and do my homework. I was a very good little high school student. so, it was a serving job. And the hours just worked for me. It was like 4 to 7, kind of like what our culinary staff do, 4 to 7 during the week. I worked, doubles on the weekends and never had to work past 7 p.m. But once I got that job, I fell in love with the residents and I just had so much fun. I would look forward after school going to work to just see the residents and get to talk with them. And I loved learning all of their food preferences and being able to, just know that Doris is going to want a cup of coffee and also some iced tea with her dinner. And just the relationships that I was able to build with the residents. And at that age, you're thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And I was like, I want to do something with this. I want to not leave this environment, but I'm not cut out to be a nurse or do direct care. So shout out to all of our nurses, anyone who does direct care. You all have a very, very special, important job. I knew I did not have the stomach or probably patience, if we're being honest, to do it either. So, but I wanted to help older adults. I wanted to be involved with them in some way. Anyways, fast forward college, I'm like, well, I'm going to get, a psychology degree. I like learning about people's minds and how they work. Maybe I can become a counselor and, specialize in older adults or something. And then as I'm doing that, my counselor at school is telling me, well, we have this program called gerontology where you can study aging, all the different aspects of it, combine that with your psychology degree, and then you can work in senior living. Um, so I think my path is unique in the sense that I, from a fairly young age, decided it was the industry I wanted to work in and stumbled into it, and then actually came to the HR side after realizing this is the industry I wanted. Then I found the HR realm to be something I really related and resonated with and wanted to not only help our residents, but also help our employees. So I kind of found the best of both worlds. I found the population I want to work for, and then the career I wanted long-term, which was, just helping people. So, but yeah, I fell in love with the industry at a super young age.
Yeah.
Sheree, what about you?
How I stumbled across a little bit different, not familiar with senior living itself. However, taking care of a aging parent, um, trying to advocate for her, I learned that nursing home, skilled rehab is kind of different than assisted living. However, when I was seeing how those individuals was being treated, I'm like, I think they need like an advocate. So before I even got to even know about the employee or human resource act, I was attracted to helping those individuals that did not have family or loved ones or couldn't speak for themselves. And so it started off like that. And during the height of the pandemic, I was working remotely for another company as a director of operations. And so how that had tailored out and then phased out, I kept trying to apply and I was looking at some other, industries and everything kept coming up assisted living. And then Arrow kept coming up and I was just like, who is this? I'm trying to look for something else because I'm into technology. I have my master's in business management along with organizational development. However, I said, let me just go ahead and apply for it. Looking at it, reading about it, I was like, okay, this is something that I'm interested in because it can apply, some organization skills, some development skills, the human resource aspect, but also give me the leverage to not only be there for the employees, but be there for the residents. Just because you're in human resources, not only is it tailored to employees, we're also, the human resources for the residents as well. So coming in, being attracted to that, learning Arrow ways and things of that nature. But it started with me just seeing residents not having that love, that voice, that communication. And then just the employees seeing, like, going into those places, seeing the stress and the hurt. And then as we're going to go further and talking about training, the lack of training, the lack of support from management, I was like, yes, this is it for me. And I was sold. I'm not a sales person, but hey, but yeah, that's what got me started, is basically just seeing those of that population needing someone with that human, that kind heart, that love, that genuine concern and care. You have to have that genuine concern. You can't be there for the money. You have to have that passion from your heart. So that's what got me started. It's just the passion for the older population and employees that's working in this field and being there to be able to support and shine through. So that's what brought me into assisted living at Arrow Senior Living Management.
And I have to say, I'm so glad it did, because Cherie has been a phenomenal business office director with us, and now she's on our regional team. And just seeing your career grow with us has been so exciting, and I love working with you. So we snagged a good one when she took a chance on senior living.
Well, that's what we're talking about today, isn't it? Like that's I love that you both have passions for this. And I want to share just a little quote from last week's LinkedIn Live. I wrote it down because it really stuck with me, and it's very, very applicable. Last week's was about coaches. If you people at home who are watching didn't watch last week, it was a great episode. It was from Mr. Tweeten. He said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And that's applicable to coaches, and it's very applicable to what we're talking about today, hiring people who care. Because you guys came to senior living from very different places, as did I. I was working in a materials testing lab before I came to Arrow. Before that, I made glasses at LensCrafter. So like it was a very different path that led us here. But the common factors that we all care. But let's talk about the changing workforce. Now we're going to shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about automation and AI and how that is changing many careers. Including here at Arrow, things are changing very rapidly. So,
yeah,
can we talk a little? Let's talk a little bit about that.
AI is it's coming for us all, whether we're ready or not, right? So, I do think that, AI is changing the workforce and the positions that are available out to people. There's a lot of things that AI can eliminate. A lot of industries where you see roles, that data entry, are roles that really don't need to exist anymore because of AI. So, and then on the flip side, AI could be creating new types of roles. So it's just changing the way that the workforce is, but it is causing some shifts within certain, I always want to say departments, but certain different workforces. Again, if you've got a very administrative type role, we are seeing some of those get eliminated. What I think the unique thing is, though, about senior living specifically is that we can take the AI and let it enhance, not replace what we're doing in the senior living space. Because So last night we had our company-wide all call, and Katie was on there talking about the same topic, which, you know, hire for heart is what we like to call it on the recruiting side, which she was one of those hire for heart hires where she didn't have a traditional senior living background. And she said something brilliant on the call that I'm going to quote her now. She said, "You can't code compassion," which is true. You know, we can automate a lot of the stuff that we do in the senior living space. Arrow is really diving into how we utilize AI and technology and how to streamline some of our processes. But at the end of the day, AI can't replace us, because what we need are people who care, and we are in the people industry. So we are here to take care of our residents, to take care of our staff. How can we leverage that AI to get rid of some of the monotony or administrative things that we can't do to give us more time to spend with those residents, because that's never going to completely go away. The industry is going to be here. The residents are going to be here. So how can we utilize that technology to care for those residents? That being said, we hopefully could be a beacon of light for those who might be experiencing workforce displacement with AI coming around, you know, with jobs shifting or changing. Someone who had a skill set in another role that might no longer exist, or be a role that's going to, you know, be a career path for somebody. Senior living can be, and those skills can be translated to senior living. And really what we say on the recruiting side. I think Derek Harris, actually one of our core team members, said this to me once. He said, "Hire for heart, train for skill," which is true, because we can hire for heart. If you've worked in another industry and maybe you have a correlating skill set to what we need in senior living, you just never considered it. We can train that skill set, or we can take that skill set that you have and incorporate it into what we do in senior living. It's so much harder, maybe impossible, to train someone to care and to have that empathy and compassion for our residents. And we're not even out there looking for someone, you know, well, hey, maybe you're passionate about, you know, older people. We're just looking for people who are passionate about helping others and making people, you know, have a good day and taking care of other people. And just that human connection is what we're looking for in so many of our roles. So
That's very well said.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, are there examples of roles that have grown as a result of technology, emerging technologies, instead of shrank or disappeared, that you guys can think of?
Yes. Roles, I would say any of our roles here at Arrow Senior Living have the opportunity for growth, even with AI. As Amber was saying, we hire for heart, and you can incorporate and enhance the skills that they are bringing. You do have to have the heart for it. So if you got to come in, you have to be receptive, you have to be coachable. If we see that, you know, during the interview process, you know, somebody can not have no experience. It can be, you know, from high school, but you can see like, hey, they are coachable, they looking to enhance, they have a passion, they want to serve others, they have that type of mindset. So the growth is there. Me, for example, I came in as a business office director in the community. When I first came, I have to have a little joke. I used to tell Mandy, and I was like, I felt like I got jumped, because it was like I came in, I got sold all this glitz and glitter, and then it was trying to just learn Arrow ways. You know, it takes some time. It can be done. So I am one of the ones, I was like, hey, I'm going to learn the process. I'm going to learn the hierarchy. I want to be coachable. I'm ready to learn this, although it can be challenging. Those are the words we don't, you know, we are fascinated, not frustrated. So during those challenging times, those are opportunities to learn. So I was able to grow from the BOD role with the coaching and the support from the regional HR team, including Amber. I can name a Chantel, Mandy, Candy, a lot of those, Joan, payroll team. And so learning and growing gave me the opportunity to go from a BOD to a lead BOD, which lets me know like, hey, I was able to grow within the what I would call the entry level role as a business office director, and then be able to use my skill set and expertise and be able to, you know, train or be a coach or support to my other BODs within the community. But also being a BOD, which is the employee side, we're also the human and the human side, being out there with the residents, making sure we're incorporating employee and resident engagement is also a growth opportunity, because you may start as a BOD. You may want to go to be a resident services. You may want to get into house. We don't know what the journey is. Whatever your heart may desire, you may start in one place at Arrow, but you can grow. There are so many different avenues. And bring your feedback. Be honest, be transparent. There may be a role that we don't see that we could probably incorporate or create that could also provide a growth opportunity. So the growth opportunity is definitely there. And then I just want to add, we also have tuition reimbursement. So
Oh, Stephanie Hood, I would be so proud of you. I think one thing I would like to add is just that the senior living space, for better or worse, is unique in the sense that we are a little bit behind when it comes to technology. So it's almost like we can look to, if you can look to what might be happening in the tech space or the financial space, and we can see kind of what's working for them and what we could bring into our industry and maybe what's not and what we could do differently. So we've at Arrow grown a whole entire, like we have a whole tech team now. So we hired an actual like web developer. We have an analytics team that does stuff for us. So I think those are some careers that are new to us specifically because of, technology and not necessarily AI, but just how the industry is growing. But since our industry is a little bit behind, there's room for innovation too. So I think anyone who's looking to come with new, fresh ideas into senior living, this is a really great time to do it, because really senior living is just getting started with some of that automation, that AI, that technology. So whether you're tech minded or not, it's a really cool space to be in if you want to be forward thinking, creative thinking, because we've got some room to grow as an industry. So that's another thing that I think is unique about the senior living space, and specifically, how roles can grow just because the space itself is growing and changing.
Yeah, very well said. And yeah, that's funny that you mentioned how we are like we're a little behind in some ways. Like it took us a little bit longer to get an app than I would have expected of us, but we got there and it's great. But in other ways, we have pioneering technologies that we implement, such as like the fall safeguard stuff that
For sure.
we've used for many years, that I was always like, wow, that's so cool. It like started predicting when people were unsteady on their feet and could alert quicker. So is we've already sort of talked about how someone starting without senior living experience can join Arrow and thrive. How do we really invest in training people, like we said, for the heart, not for the experience or knowledge?
Yeah.
Training people with heart, I should say.
Sure. I think that is where it can be tricky, right? When we're saying we hire for heart, like, well, we'll just take anybody if they're a really great person, which I mean, yes, but also it can feel a little bit like a shot in the dark. Like, so then how do I recruit for somebody if I'm not looking at their resume and saying, okay, yes, I'm hiring a director of wellness, checkbox, they've been a director of wellness for 10 years. Like, how do I hire for that? How do I train somebody if they have zero experience as a care partner, but I know that they've, got the passion and the empathy and caring to do it? One of the unique things that I think we're trying out as a company, I shouldn't say I think we are doing it, but I think it's unique, is we're really looking at benchmarking our positions and saying, okay, what at Arrow Senior Living, what makes a successful care partner? And when we say successful, like what key attributes, what qualities does this person have that makes them successful with our organization and great at what they do? So we're doing that research right now and looking at our top care partners in the company and really analyzing, okay, what qualities do these individuals have that make them so great at their job? Is it what personality traits? What do they think is important? The most important things about their role, where are their strengths within their role and just within their communities, and taking that information and starting to say, okay, so this is what works well for us in a care partner role or in a server role. We are going to then adjust our, job ads, and how do we advertise that is going to really intrigue someone with these qualities or find applicants that have those qualities. And then our training guides too can be, and how we train our employees will be informed by that information as well. When we train employees now, obviously we want to make sure we spend that extra time with them on the floor. And especially if someone, hasn't worked in direct care before, maybe they haven't worked as a business office director before. I'm just throwing titles out there, but we do need to spend that extra time with them. I don't want to miss the opportunity to mention too, like having a mentor is huge, even if, it's someone that's in management or just another care partner to care partner, someone who's been working with the company for a while in the industry for a while can be a good resource to somebody who's just getting into the industry. So I think it's mentorship. I think it's really looking at what works for you in the role at your community, and then figuring out how you can adjust your training, your advertising, even your, retention efforts or mentoring, what you're doing within the community to foster and grow those careers.
Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit, but there are lots of people who are being displaced. How do we go about re-education, this new training for people who now have to start a second career? Like,
Yeah.
I imagine it's extremely daunting. All of a sudden you've been made redundant. You aren't needed at your old job. You might be a little lost. How do we help people who are starting a second career brand new, who might be a little shell shocked, honestly, and who are like, well, I'll give this a try, maybe, how do we help those people?
I can say from the community standpoint, actually being part of the interviewing process for those that have been displaced or in the population, you know, being laid off from COVID or the industries that's been impacted by COVID, that we do want to mention the things that we offer, training, detailed training. We also not only just train based off the position that you're looking for, there's ongoing training. We're going to train you on, the technology. Like I've had an interview with somebody like, hey, I don't know how to utilize, Paylocity. They may be, more of a senior employee. That is our opportunity from the gate to start offering opportunity to train. So even during that process, it's like, hey, I don't want that to discourage you. When you come on board, I will set some time to show you how to utilize Paylocity and Archer and things of that nature. So that automatically starts the retention effort from start. Because most people that are displaced, they're like, hey, I don't know how to use this, and I think that's going to disqualify me for this. But giving them that reassurance that there is someone here to mentor and support you and guide you through, I think that also helps with them feeling valued, appreciated, and wanted before they even come through the door. That is the goal. Like, hey, we the best. We want you to stay. We want retention. We want loyalty. We want longevity. So the displaced workers, yes, we want you. And also it's a challenge. I like when somebody say, well, I haven't used this in a long time. I have employees at Strongsville. I'm like, I'm going to take the time to show you how to do it. Don't be afraid. Technology is nothing you're supposed to be afraid of. You want to embrace it, and we can do it in increments. Learn this first, get comfortable with it. Learn that and get comfortable with it. And at that point, they say, hey, I can do this. They're not afraid. So bringing that knowledge gap and removing the stigmas, you can help displaced workers, and we do have success stories with displaced workers here at Arrow.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge to the company, to ours and to all, to figure out what roles you have that can translate well into other industries, and how you are reaching out to them or how you're appealing to those individuals. With us, I think it's, we start small. We had, back when we were doing COVID, when COVID was a thing, during the pandemic, that we needed extra help, just extra hands in the buildings, just because it was, a crazy time. And we had the universal support partner position, which is where we've had employees that started. I think our assistant controller was one who started as a universal support partner. We heard from her actually in the call yesterday, but started as a universal support partner, worked up to the assistant controller position. I think the universal support partner position is a unique role because it gives individuals in that role insight into multiple service areas, because really it's just a position where they're helping out wherever needed. They could be helping out in the culinary department, they could be helping out in operations, they could be helping with resident services, doing different events with the residents. So bringing back roles like that might be something that we, look at, because that gives someone a great insight into, I'm going to start here and just feel out the industry or feel out the community and where I'm going to fit in best, because you're getting really almost like cross training across different groups to see what works well for you and what doesn't. And then I think really the challenge too is the training piece. And if we're being intentional and really thinking through the background of an employee when we're training them, because someone who has 5 years of experience doing a role, they may already, you know, have just some foundations that someone else may or may not have. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we are getting close to wrapping up, believe it or not, we're getting close. Can we talk about real quick position benchmarking and what it is?
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier. So when we were talking about the project or outlining everything. So so hopefully that with, you know, we're in the middle of the project. So hopefully we can have, you know, an update later and show what we found. But that's, yeah, essentially where we're going in and saying this is, you know, the key qualities for a position and how we
Gotcha.
compare to it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, again, we just got a few more minutes here left. We got to wrap things up. Can we get some final thoughts on this topic from each of you before we say goodbye?
I would just like to add some final thoughts with the AI automation, displaced workers, the benchmarking. You know, Arrow, you know, I just want to say, whether you're Arrow, Current, who's ever listening, like, please send them our way. We have, you know, you can find us on Indeed, JobBite, LinkedIn. You can reach out to one of us, you know, or anybody that is Arrow. But I will say, you know, we are looking to keep the human and human resources and hire by heart. Go ahead, Amber.
No, I was just gonna say, I think two things. If you're, you know, outside of the Aero company and looking to start hiring for Heart, you know, looking at this is a challenge for us too, that we're, you know, challenging ourselves to do, but you know, really how you're showing up out there for other industries and really looking at your recruiting and training and how you're, you know, how that would look to an outsider, someone who doesn't have a ton of experience in the industry. I also, you know, I think Arrow is a very unique company. We can speak pretty confidently with saying we've had a lot of hire for hearts within our organization, a lot of people who came into the organization without that senior living background. And they've contributed so much to what we do. And really, like, that's what makes us, I think, such an innovative and unique company is we have all of these different skill sets and perspectives that have come to us because we've hired someone who maybe worked at Starbucks for a little while and didn't necessarily have a background, or someone who worked for a bank and brought that you know, customer service from banking. So we have lots of different unique perspectives. Aaron, who came from working at you said you worked at an eyeglass place, so you brought your unique perspective into what we do. So just all the different unique perspectives have made us a very forward-thinking company. And then I think the other thing is I want to say is if you're looking to get into senior living, or if you know someone who is not necessarily traditionally in the senior living space, but has, you know, is wanting to grow their career, I think senior living is very unique in the sense of where we're at. And I think that we will always be looking for people who have the right heart, have that empathy, have that compassion for others. And it's not an industry that's going to go away. Like, there will always be the need for the industry to take care of other people, and we don't need to be afraid of technology because it's going to help us do that. It's going to ultimately free us up so that we can do the thing that matters most, which is make those connections with our staff and with our residents.
Well, Amber, Cherie, thank you guys so much for joining me today here on Office Hours with Arrow. Arrow is a company that truly does hire for the heart, and the proof's in the pudding. We are a company with a ton of heart and wonderful people. I'm always excited when I get to step in for Rachel for these things because I get to chat with wonderful people like yourselves. So yeah, like they said, if you guys know people who are looking for a new career, Arrow's the way to go. There's a spot for everybody, as long as you got the right heart for it. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, please come back next week for Office Hours with Arrow. We're going to be talking about inclusion in action, celebrating disability employment. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you all next week.